Nuclear wastewater invades, marine life mutates, and 2 million people die from the disaster every day. In the ruins of Doomsday, I witnessed with my own eyes that human civilization was slaughtered by mutated sea beasts, and I died in despair. However, I was miraculously reborn back to a year ago and activated the Jidao system. Faced with the impending doomsday, I underwent 3 months of hellish training. All my friends and family thought I was crazy. It wasn't until 3 months later, when the monster attacked the city, that I smashed the 10-meter-tall, bullet-ignoring lobster monster with one punch, and the whole world was shocked. On the morning of my resignation, I came to the company as usual, but was greeted by an unexpected storm. "Hanjing, what the hell are you doing? I just assigned you overtime yesterday, and this morning you told me you wanted to resign." The manager's angry voice came from the office, attracting the attention of all colleagues outside. I didn't look back, nor did I explain. I just sighed in my heart. This kind of trivial matter is no longer important to me after my rebirth. My name is Hanjing. I am 22 years old. I just graduated from university and am doing an internship at a branch of Hungyu Group. But I am different from others because I was reborn. I was struggling in a sea of blood and corpses last night, but now I have returned to a year ago. Although it sounds unbelievable, I know that I must prepare for the future for the coming apocalypse. So, early this morning, I decisively submitted my resignation. But the manager was obviously unwilling to let me go. He tried to persuade me with soft words, threatened me, and even shouted at the end, "If you dare to walk out of this door, I will make you regret it." I stopped, looked back at him, and said calmly, "Stop pretending. I'm going to be honest. Han Hongtu is my dad." The office suddenly became strangely quiet, as if the air had frozen. Han Hongtu, this name was not unfamiliar to them. He was the big boss of the group. Amid everyone's shocked gazes, I made a phone call, spoke briefly, and calmly told the manager, "You were fired." The manager's face turned pale instantly. He opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but I didn't give him another chance. I also ignored those colleagues who liked to flatter others and walked out of the office. After leaving the company, I walked alone in the rain outside the Hungyu building in Shanghai. The raindrops poured down like bullets, but I was soaked but didn't care at all, because I knew that the Rail storm was still 3 months away. At that time, the ocean mutated, the end of the world came. Mutated monsters flooded onto the land. Cities were destroyed, and humans became refugees. In my previous life, I was just like this, falling from a rich young man to a refugee struggling to survive in a shelter. As we were walking, the phone rang. It was my dad's voice. "Son, your sister told me that you quit your job? Come home for dinner, and we can have a good chat." "Okay." Hearing the familiar voice, my heart warmed. Before hanging up the phone, I suddenly remembered something. "Dad, is the villa in the northern suburbs still vacant? Give me the key and transfer another 1 or 2 million to me. I want to order a batch of fitness equipment." "You want to exercise?" My father's tone was full of surprise. "Well, exercise," I replied. My father was silent for a moment, then said, "Okay, I'll give you 5 million. If it's not enough, we'll talk later." After hanging up the phone, the system interface appeared in my mind. After a closer look, I found that the system gave me the talent of Hama Yujiro and gave me a task. Within 100 days, I must improve all my physical attributes to 80% of Hamas through fitness and develop devilish back muscles. After completing the task, I will receive a generous reward. The system is simple and clear. In addition to the personal information and task interface, there is also a mall option that has not been activated yet. I know that I must go all out and prepare for the coming doomsday. At this time, the text message alert sounded. I received a text message from the bank showing that my father had just transferred 5 million to me. There was also a message reminding me that the key to the villa had been delivered and repeatedly reminding me to go home for dinner in the evening. Putting the phone back into my pocket, I continued walking forward for a few hundred meters and suddenly heard a sudden brake sound. Turning around, a Bentley with smooth lines and luxurious luster was parked in front of the right. The door opened and a tall beauty got out of the car holding an umbrella. My eyes were almost instantly attracted to her. She was wearing beige slim-fit wide-leg pants, a pair of white high heels, and sunglasses covering most of her face, but still couldn't hide her beauty. Her cool temperament made me recognize her at a glance. Zhou Qiaoqiao, my beautiful and talented sister. Zhou Qiaoqiao's parents died in a car accident when she was 7 years old, and she was later adopted by my father Han Hongtu. Although Zhou Qiaoqiao is only 2 years older than me, she is a true genius. She graduated from Cambridge University at the age of 18 and later joined Hungyu Group. She is now the head of an independent department. Not long after my father sent the message, Zhou Qiao appeared beside me. Seeing that I was soaking wet, she smiled and walked to the trunk, took out an umbrella, walked over in high heels and said, "Don't stand there like an idiot. Get in the car first. I'll help you change clothes. Be careful not to catch a cold." I nodded and took the umbrella, smelling her faint fragrance. To be honest, facing such a beautiful and unique childhood sweetheart, I couldn't help but feel a little moved. But in my previous life, I always had a sense of inferiority. Although I was 1.8 meters tall, I weighed 180 kilograms, had a round belly, and wore the same loose jeans and plaid shirts as my school days. Standing next to Qiao Qiao, we didn't even look like a brother and sister, let alone a boyfriend and girlfriend. The last time I saw Qiao Qiao in my previous life was when she was on the run. She had joined an official organization and was wearing a uniform, looking heroic. We didn't recognize each other, but she left me a cloth bag with some dry food when she left. I was in a state of embarrassment at that time, and I could only laugh at myself in my heart. Elites can adapt well no matter where they are, while ordinary people like me have done their best to survive. Shaking my head, I forced myself to retract my thoughts. Seeing Qiao Qiao again, I felt mixed emotions, but now I am no longer that self-abased teenager. With the system at my disposal, I no longer need to belittle myself. In the northern suburbs of Shanghai, the Citron Villa district has a beautiful environment and fresh air. The people who live here are either rich or noble. 5 years ago, my father spent 68 million to buy a villa, but it was more for investment purposes. The villa has been idle for a long time. I have only been here twice before. Zhou Qiao drove my Bentley and took me into this luxurious manor without any obstruction. Inside the villa, there are high ceilings, oversized imported leather sofas, and mahogany wine cabinets filled with all kinds of wine and decorations. The 5-story villa has everything from the living room and dining room on the first floor to the gym on the 3rd floor, and the audiovisual room and garage in the basement. While I was looking around the villa, Zhou Qiao was busy contacting the property management, and soon several cleaning ladies began to clean the huge villa. Before I knew it, I walked to an empty room on the 3rd floor. My eyes fell on the treadmill near the floor-to-ceiling window, and I suddenly had the urge to go for a run. I walked over to start the treadmill and started jogging. After a few minutes, my brain was lacking oxygen and my legs felt heavy. Just as I was about to stop and rest, a cold mechanical voice suddenly rang in my mind. "You ran 1,000 meters in one breath, and you got 0.1 evolution points. Physical strength plus 0.1. With a small flow of heat flowing to my limbs, I felt my endurance increase and my breathing became more powerful. I felt like I was getting a little stronger. Zhou Qiao searched all the rooms on the 1st and 2nd floors, but could not find Han Jing, so she went to the 3rd floor. However, when she reached the stairs, Zhou Qiao suddenly stopped. She could vaguely hear the heavy breathing of a man in a room on the 3rd floor. It sounded like he was running, but it was a little different. The sound became more and more rapid, as if he was about to reach his limit, or about to have some kind of explosion. Zhou Qiao's expression became a little strange, and she hesitated whether to continue going upstairs. At this moment, a heavy thump sound came from the 3rd floor, as if something heavy had fallen to the ground. She was startled and ran upstairs without thinking too much. What happened? Zhou Qiao held the door and took a closer look before she breathed a sigh of relief. It turned out that Han Jing just didn't stand firmly on the treadmill and fell on his butt. Seeing Zhou Qiao appear, Han Jing felt a little embarrassed and couldn't help but explain, I ran too fast and my foot slipped. You, be careful, exercise moderately, and don't hurt yourself." Zhou Qiao smiled, walked forward, and stretched out her hand to help me. Han Jing reached out to pull her, but accidentally used too much force, causing Zhou Qiao to almost fall. Although she reacted quickly and stood firm, a trace of unnatural embarrassment flashed across her face. I said self-deprecatingly, "It seems that my weight is really a little over the standard." After saying that, I stood up and dusted off my body to divert the awkward atmosphere. Zhou Qiao regained her composure, as if nothing had happened. She smiled and said, "I have already found the fitness equipment you want. I will be going to the capital on a business trip tomorrow. I will send you the phone number, and you can contact them yourself." "Okay." I nodded and opened my phone to save the number. In order to keep fit, I did some homework, including dumbbells, barbells, treadmills, and some large fitness equipment, almost buying all the equipment in the gym on the market. It's still early. I'm going back to the company to take care of some things. What do you want for lunch? The property has several private chefs who can provide door-to-door service. Zhou Qiao walked to the treadmill and turned off the power. "Well, go and get busy. I'm a grown-up. I won't starve myself, I said with a smile. Okay, Zhou Qiao nodded. I'm taking a flight early tomorrow morning and will be on a business trip for 3 to 5 days. I may not be able to come over during these days, so feel free to call me if you have anything. Don't forget to come home for dinner tonight. Dad canceled an important meeting in the afternoon to make this meal. The cars are all in the basement and the keys are in the cars. Zhou Qiao gave her final instructions, then turned around and left in her high heels. Watching Zhou Qiao's back disappear at the stairs, I turned around and my eyes fell on the treadmill again. Then, I took off my black short-sleeved shirt, revealing my plump body, and got back on the treadmill. Go on, let me see what the limit of a fat otaku like me is. Sweat dripped down, my body was burning, my breathing became rapid and deep, and every step seemed to break through the limit. Although my physical strength was almost exhausted, I knew that it was at such a moment that the limit would be broken. I don't know how long it took, but just when I felt dizzy and almost fainted, a warm current suddenly surged through my body. The fatigue was instantly dissipated, replaced by relaxation and comfort. I felt like I could run another 5 kilometers. So I increased my pace. My legs moved more vigorously, and the sluggishness in my muscles disappeared. Sure enough, it's easy. A trace of joy flashed in my eyes. This feeling of getting stronger little by little fascinated him. In the evening, the sun sets, and the whole city is like an oil painting under the reflection of the sunset. On a wide elevated road, a black Mercedes-Benz G63 is speeding by like a steel beast. I don't really like sports cars. I prefer spacious off-road vehicles, especially the Mercedes-Benz G that he is driving at the moment. My parents live in the top high-end residential area in Jing'an District, where there are 8 high-rise residential buildings and 2 villas. One belongs to a top wealthy man in Hong Kong, who occasionally stays for a few days when he comes to Shanghai, and the other belongs to my parents. Although the area is smaller than the Citron Villa in the northern suburbs, it has a superior geographical location, only a few kilometers away from the city center and convenient transportation. When Han Jing arrived at the community, the sun had already set completely and the night covered the sky. The stars in the distance and the streetlights in the community reflected each other. The surroundings were quiet, with only the rustling sound of leaves in the breeze and the occasional sound of cars. As soon as I walked to the door, before my hand even touched the door handle, the combination lock popped open automatically. Come in, wash your hands and have dinner, everyone is waiting for you. Zhou Qiao's voice came from inside the door. Zhou Qiao changed into a homely white dress, tied her hair into a ponytail, revealing her swan-like neck, and wore cute bunny plush slippers. She was bare-faced, but still stunningly beautiful. I don't know if it was because of the impulse of youth or because the memories of my past life were too profound, but the moment I saw her, some thoughts emerged in my heart. But I calmed down in time, followed Zhou Qiao into the villa, and prepared to enjoy the loving dinner my parents had carefully prepared. However, I didn't know that at this time, the university class group was in an uproar because of a female classmate's revelation. Shock. There is actually a hidden super-rich second generation in our class. The atmosphere in the class group was tense. Qi Shasha suddenly disappeared halfway through revealing something, leaving everyone guessing. People who usually lurked were all curious at this moment. A boy named Sun Deqiang couldn't help but speak up first. Sha, don't keep us in suspense. There are many second-generation rich people in our class, but I don't think there is anyone who can be called super rich. Zhang Su followed closely and echoed, Brother Yi is recognized by us as a wealthy man, but his family's assets are just over 100 million. Su Qian sent an emoji of a black man scratching his head and said, the net worth of a super-rich second generation must be at least tens of billions, right? Tell me, among the 36 people in our class, who looks like the hidden rich man? The messages in the group were flooding the screen. 2 minutes later, Qi Shasha finally reappeared. Please be patient. I will tag the person and you will know. As soon as she finished speaking, she mentioned Han Zheng's name. At Han Zheng, rich man. Why don't you show up soon? Are you still missing a pendant on your leg? I'll sign up first. A brief silence enveloped the group chat, as if time had stopped for a few seconds. Then, Sun Deqiang was the first to burst out. Haha, Han Zheng is a rich second generation? What a joke. I shared a dormitory with him for 4 years in college. If he was really rich, would I not know it? People in the group echoed this, questioning one after another. Han Zheng lives a frugal life, and I've never seen him spend money recklessly. He uses a 2,000 yuan domestic mobile phone, and all his clothes combined are not as expensive as my bag. Just when everyone was doubting, Qi Shasha spoke again. Do you know Hengyu Group? Han Zheng's father is the founder of Hengyu Group, Han Hongtu. She attached a photo of Han Hongtu and a graduation photo of her and Han Jing. The two people in the photo have similar facial features, especially the eyes and nose, which are almost cast from the same mold. Sun Deqiang's exclamation almost resounded throughout the group, "Wow, it's really Han Hongtu from Hengyu Group." Other classmates also expressed shock, especially those girls who once maintained a friendship with Han Jing, who now regretted it. At this time, Han Jing walked out of the house alone, feeling heavy pressure in his heart. After his rebirth, he always felt the urgency of time. In this doomsday world, every minute and every second means a chance to survive. He walked into the Manhattan gym near the community and decided to start a self-cultivation. In the gym, the manager saw Han Jingxing's face and immediately sent out his top female personal trainer Liang Yuan to meet him. Liang Yuan is tall, energetic, and enthusiastic about new customers. However, Han Jing looked at her with mixed feelings. In her previous life, Liang Yuan was a strong and optimistic girl, but on the first day of the catastrophe, her legs were shattered and she died. Han Jing now knew clearly what time meant to him. He did not waste time and directly requested an annual card and purchased 20 private lessons. Liang Yuan was shocked by Han Jing's frankness, but then a sweet smile broke out on his face. Han Jing originally just wanted to run in the gym for an hour or two, and it was a spur-of-the-moment decision to try out all the equipment. On the one hand, he wanted to take this opportunity to help Liang Yuan, and on the other hand, he just happened to need to get familiar with the fitness equipment that was about to be delivered to his home. An hour later, Han Jing and Liang Yuan came down from the last set of leg training equipment. Although Han Jing's explosive power was average, his endurance was amazing. Liang Yuan was already out of breath, while he was only slightly sweating. Walking to the counter, Han Jing took out his mobile phone and purchased the annual pass and 20 private lessons. Afterwards, Han Jing said to Liang Yuan, "Coach Liang, you go take a rest. I'll go run for a while." Liang Yuan smiled and nodded, then suggested adding him as a friend. Han Jing did not refuse, even though he knew in his heart that this might be his last time here. The gym at Citron Villa is about to open, and Han Jing plans to conduct all future training there. Despite this, he still intends to help Liang Yuan to the best of his ability. Han Jing finished running 10 kilometers on the treadmill and felt an unprecedented sense of accomplishment. This was the first time he had completed a 10-kilometer clock-in his past and present lives, and a sense of pride surged in his heart. Han Jing got off the treadmill with sore legs, wiped the sweat off his face, and habitually turned on his phone, which was followed by a beeping sound in the background. Han Jing found that he had received a large number of private messages, most of which were from people who wanted to invite him to reminisce or make friends. Han Jing had no intention of paying attention to these messages, but he noticed that there were 99+ unread messages and multiple at himself prompts in the class group. Out of curiosity, he clicked in and browsed the chat history, only to find that he had been exposed as a super-rich second generation. Han Jing was going to ignore it, but considering the good memories these classmates brought him, he finally decided to respond. Instead of explaining, it is better to speak with actions. He sent 5 big red envelopes in the group at once, each with 10,000 yuan, and they were snatched up in an instant. The head teacher and counselor also snatched them up quickly. Obviously, they had been lurking. The red envelopes quickly brought him and his classmates closer together, and the atmosphere in the group became particularly joyful. Han Jing smiled and closed the group chat window. Just as he was about to exit, a private message caught his attention. It was from his college friend Wang Tong. "Han Jing, I'm going to Shanghai on a business trip in a few days. I want to hang out with you." Han Jing replied briefly, "Okay, call me when you come." The next morning, just after daybreak, Han Jing drove his G-Class to Citron Villa in the northern suburbs. At the same time, Zhou Qiao, who was packing her luggage to go to the airport, was called to the study by Han Hongtu to give him some advice. "Qiao, I'm worried about Zheng'er. He used to feel tired even if he walked a few more steps, but why did he suddenly change his temper and want to work out? Please help me keep an eye on him, but don't discourage his enthusiasm. Find a professional coach and give him one-on-one lessons in the future, so that he won't hurt his body by training blindly." Zhou Qiao nodded in agreement, and then began to select a suitable coach on the way to the airport, trying to finalize the candidate before boarding the plane. In the evening, in the live broadcast room of a certain audio short video platform, Sun Xian, a fitness coach wearing a red vest and blue shorts, was interacting with the audience. Sun Xian was sweating profusely, but his face was filled with an excited smile. "Brothers and sisters, I have good news to share with you. I just received a big order, a one-on-one private teaching for a super VIP customer. The class will probably start in a week, and the live broadcast time may have to be adjusted by then. I will send a video to notify everyone later." "I'm sorry, Family members, Sun Xian continued with a smile. Regarding the information of this VIP customer, I can only reveal his height and weight. Other private information cannot be disclosed without permission. Sun Xian paused for a moment and then added, he is 180 centimeters tall and weighs 180 kilograms. This is mostly caused by long-term lack of exercise. To be honest, he is a little overweight, but not obese. Sun Xian calculated, his body mass index, BMI, is 27.7, and his body fat percentage is about 27%. As he said this, he reminded the audience, I will post the calculation method of body mass index and body fat percentage at the top of the comment section. Those who are interested can calculate it themselves, but it may not be very accurate. Body fat percentage is the percentage of body fat to total weight. The body fat percentage of healthy men is generally between 15 to 18%, and 25% is high for both men and women. Sun Xian also had a body fat percentage of 25 during the muscle building and fat burning stage, but as a professional bodybuilder, he once reached an astonishing 6 body fat percentage at his peak, which is almost the limit that the human body can withstand, and maintaining it for a long time will have a negative impact on health. But don't worry, Sun Xian said confidently, as long as this client trains according to the plan I set, there will be absolutely no problem in reducing his body fat percentage to 15% in half a year. Upon hearing what he said, the audience in the live broadcast room immediately started to flatter him. Sun Xian looked at the audience's praise for a while and smiled so hard that his eyes narrowed into a line. This sense of accomplishment was something he had never experienced before as an athlete. Just as Sun Xian was immersed in this sense of satisfaction, a red message caught his attention. Coach Sun, in this case, can we continue the live broadcast next week? This was sent by his loyal fan, Idolma's sister, who has always been in the top 3 of the reward list. Sun Xian quickly replied, it should be no problem. I will try my best to coordinate the time. Don't worry, as long as I have time, I will definitely start a live broadcast to practice with you. Idolma's sister didn't say anything more, but simply played 2 carnivals, full of pride. Sun Xian thanked her quickly, then looked at the time and said, okay, today's live broadcast ends here, family. See you tomorrow. Bye, love you guys. As the live broadcast room closed, the assistant handed over a bottle of mineral water. Sun Xian took it and drank it all, then crushed the bottle and threw it into the trash can. Have the detailed information of this big customer been sent over? Sun Xian asked casually. Yes, the client's name is Han Jiang. He's 22 years old, a local from Shanghai, and he doesn't exercise much. The assistant answered while checking the tablet. He only requires one-on-one service around the clock and has no other special requests. He has already paid a deposit of 200,000 yuan and asked us to report to the Citron Villa in the northern suburbs first. The subsequent expenses will be refunded or supplemented. Sun Xian nodded. It sounds straightforward. Let's sign the contract. At this time, a female voice with a bit of surprise came from the side. Coach Sun, the client you were talking about is called Han Jiang? Sun Xian turned his head and found that the person who spoke was Liang Yuan, a female personal trainer in the gym. Coach Liang, do you know him? Sun Xian was a little surprised. Liang Yuan walked over and took a look at the photo on the tablet, and immediately recognized that it was Han Jiang who had signed up for an annual membership at a Manhattan gym last night and purchased 20 private lessons from her. She said puzzledly, that's him. But since he has decided to have one-on-one training with you, why did he still sign up for a membership and buy lessons from me? After listening to this, Sun Xian became more curious about Han Jiang. He couldn't figure out why Han Jiang did this. Did he come here to test the waters last night? But Sun Xian shook his head and thought there was no need to think too much. In fact, Sun Xian could only officially take up his position a week later because he still had to finish private lessons for 2 VIP clients. Han Jiang required a one-on-one, high-end, customized service around the clock, so Sun Xian could only try to compress the adjustment time, but it still took a week to finish. Han Jiang's private gym is gradually taking shape in the Citron Villa. Fitness equipment is delivered one after another and quickly installed by specialized installation masters. In less than half a day, the entire gym has taken shape, is fully equipped, and looks quite professional. In the afternoon, after seeing off the installation master, Han Jiang came to the 3rd floor alone. He sat on the floor with his back against the French window, with more than a dozen bottles of mineral water, clean towels, sports shoes, vests, and shorts piled up beside him. Han Jiang took out his mobile phone and downloaded an app called FT, intending to use it to record his daily training status for the convenience of data quantification and future review. After putting down his phone, Han Jiang began to do a few warm-up exercises to stretch his muscles. He looked around and finally stopped at the rowing machine. Rowing machines and treadmills are both aerobic fitness equipment, but rowing machines are more effective in reducing fat. They not only exercise the lower limb muscles, but also exercise more than 84% of the body's muscles, including the legs, back, arms, and abdomen, and put less pressure on joints, making them particularly suitable for people with large body weight. Han Jing picked a mode suitable for beginners and slowly adapted to it. After 5 minutes, he increased the difficulty and turned up the resistance. After 10 minutes, he had completely mastered the rhythm and speed. He held the rope tightly with both hands, and his leg muscles were stretched to the limit at the starting position. When he pulled back, his back muscles were as tight as iron. An hour passed. Han Jing's breathing became rapid and sweat flowed from his body, but he did not stop. His eyes were firm, staring at the wall in front of him. After another 10 minutes, Han Jing finally let go of the rope, put his hands on his knees, and sat on the rowing machine, panting. Although his whole body was exhausted, heat seemed to flow out of every inch of muscle, quickly repairing his tired body. Dripped down Han Jing's elbows onto the ground, forming a puddle of water under his feet, and his clothes were soaked, as if they had just been pulled out of a basin of water. Han Jing stood up, took off his sweaty vest, walked to the window with his bare chest, and threw his clothes into the plastic basket. After wiping the sweat off his body with a towel, he put on a new vest and walked towards other fitness equipment again. Meanwhile, Li Wei was sitting at home, worried about his weight. Li Wei, 25, is a real estate salesman. He is 1.7 meters tall, but weighs nearly 200 kilograms, which has caused him to run into obstacles in blind dates. After learning from his mistakes, Li Wei decided to lose weight. Based on the recommendation of netizens, he downloaded FT, signed up for a 1-month membership, and followed the courses in the app to exercise every day. Only lost 1 pound despite his hard work, which made him feel frustrated. After completing a 2-kilometer jog and 3 sets of push-ups, he sat on the ground like a wretch, tearing whole wheat bread to replenish his energy while scrolling through his phone and browsing weight loss posts on the FT. Some motivational posts gave Li Wei some encouragement. He often read these posts when he felt discouraged, fantasizing that one day he would be able to successfully lose weight and have a normal body shape, and then have a passionate love affair, get married, and have children. Li Wei has even thought of names for his future children. The girl will be named Li Inhua, and the boy will be named Li Zagan Shenma. Thinking of these names, he couldn't help laughing out loud. However, returning to reality, he looked down at his still obese body and couldn't help but feel unwilling. He took a bite of the bread and swore, 30 years in the East, 30 years in the West. I don't believe that I, Li Wei, can't lose weight in this lifetime. Li Wei continued to browse his phone, and suddenly, his eyes stopped on a post titled, 3 Months of Hellish Fitness, Challenging the Limits of the Human Body. Although the title seemed a bit exaggerated, Li Wei still clicked on it. After opening the post, he found that the poster was named Han Jing, a small account with no identity, 180 centimeters tall, and weighing 180 caddies. Oh, you dare to challenge the limits of the human body? Li Wei sneered in his heart and quickly typed a comment on the phone screen. Here's a piece of advice for fitness novices. It's best to be down to earth at the beginning and set a goal that is easy to achieve. Don't aim too high. Things like health fitness and challenging the limits, you'd better change them quickly. Otherwise, if the real fitness gods see it, they will only make people laugh at you. Li Wei paused for a moment and added, I have been in FT for more than half a year. If you have any questions, you can ask me. I have some experience in weight loss. Well, that's it. In a suite at the Hilton 5-star hotel in the imperial capital, Zhou Qiao, the stunningly beautiful woman, was sitting in a rattan chair by the floor-to-ceiling window, her fingers rapidly tapping on the keyboard of her laptop. Although the weather outside was sunny and nice, Zhou Qiao had no time to enjoy herself because work was piling up. Managing an independent department was far from the image of those cool executives on TV. In fact, since her promotion, Zhou Qiao has hardly had a full night of sleep. Zhou Qiao stood up and stretched her joints and neck, then stared out the window. She suddenly remembered that she had not yet notified Han Jing, her fitness coach. So Zhou Qiao picked up her phone, closed her computer, walked to the bed and lay down. Her 1.70-meter tall figure sank into the mattress, and her graceful posture would make anyone who saw her fall in love with her. Zhou Qiao dialed Han Jing's number. After the call was connected, she heard the rapid breathing from the other end and couldn't help asking, Are you running again? I'm rowing. What do you want from me? Han Jing's breathing became heavier and heavier, as if it was blowing through the screen of his mobile phone. Zhou Qiao subconsciously moved the phone further away, hesitated for a moment, and then advised, Han Jing, you should also exercise in moderation. Well, okay. The answer from the other end of the phone seemed a bit perfunctory. Zhou Qiao shook her head, and the concerns that Han Hongtu had once mentioned emerged in her mind. Could it be that he really had suffered some emotional trauma? Zhou Qiao wanted to ask, but swallowed the words back and finally decided not to say anything more so as not to irritate him further. After adjusting her lying position, Zhou Qiao briefly explained Sun Xian's situation. I found a fitness coach for you. His name is Sun Xian. He is 35 years old this year. He was once a national bodybuilder. He now works in a gym in Shanghai and is also well known on the internet. Fitness coach? I don't need one now. Han Jing stopped and looked surprised. I found this coach for you 3 days ago. Zhou Qiao was a little helpless. There was silence on both ends of the phone for a few seconds, with only the sound of each other's breathing. Finally, Han Jing broke the silence. It's really not necessary, let him go back. Zhou Qiao insisted, you should still meet him. This is what Dad wants. He's afraid that you'll hurt yourself. Okay, what's his name? Do you have detailed information about him? Han Jing compromised a little, but still a little hesitant. Sun Xian, from the Manhattan gym. By the way, does he know a girl named Liang Yuan? Han Jing suddenly asked. I don't know, but I can ask for you. Zhou Qiao felt strange, but nodded in agreement. Forget it, no need to ask. Let him bring Liang Yuan along as an assistant coach. Han Jing's tone was filled with a determination that could not be refused. Although Zhou Qiao didn't understand the reason, she still silently remembered Liang Yuan's name, and couldn't help wondering if this girl was the reason why Han Jing suddenly started to exercise. Maybe this was the fuse of Han Jing's emotional fluctuations. After hanging up the phone, Han Jing increased the resistance of the rowing machine and continued training. This was the 3rd day since he started working out, and he could feel that his physical condition was improving rapidly. Although his muscles ached and his legs and feet felt weak after training every day, as if he had overdrawn his physical strength, as long as he got a good night's sleep, he would be full of energy the next day. Near noon, the sun shines into the gym through the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting a golden glow on the cold equipment. Han Jing was wrapped in a bath towel, his hair was wet, and he had just come out of a cold shower. While wiping his hair, he opened the FT software and simply recorded the amount of training this morning, then turned off the screen and placed the phone and towel on the treadmill. Han Jing changed into clean clothes and walked towards the first floor. Han Jing's appetite increased significantly in the past few days, and he was already hungry before mealtime. In order to deal with this situation, Han Jing specially added 2 extra meals, and 2 private chefs took turns to come to his house to prepare various ingredients. Han Jing also contacted the property management company and purchased a truckload of food from a nearby supermarket and had it delivered to his home every 2 or 3 days, which saved him a lot of trouble. At the same time, at a small real estate company in Pudong District, Shanghai, Li Wei had just got off work. After jogging for 20 minutes in the gym next to the company, Li Wei, feeling that he had exercised enough, got off the treadmill panting, sat on a bench nearby, took out his mobile phone and logged into FT. He wanted to see if the fitness newbie had replied to his private message. When he saw that the private messages and follow list were still empty, Li Wei couldn't help but frown. This guy, he hasn't been online since the day before yesterday? He muttered to himself, and after comforting himself for a few words, he still felt a little uncomfortable. So Li Wei found the previous post, 3 months of hellish fitness, challenging the limits of the human body again. He clicked on it and found that Han Jing had just finished checking in, but had not responded to his message, which made Li Wei feel annoyed. You ignored me? Li Wei was shocked and angry, and felt that his self-esteem was hurt. He took a few deep breaths and told himself to stay calm and not be affected by such things. So, Li Wei once again left a message in the comments section. Young man, you can't practice like this. Today is Han Jing's 4th day of checking in. His training plan is not something that ordinary people can withstand. Take a look at Han Jing's training today. Flat bench press, supine pull-up, dumbbell fly, plus 30 minutes of rowing machine training, each of which is full of strength challenges. The low-intensity aerobic training in the first 3 days is just a warm-up, and the real battle starts today. But this training plan is not something that ordinary people can stick to. With high-intensity training on different parts of the body every day and continuous overload, Han Jing is challenging his physical limits in an almost crazy way. If it were someone else, they would have collapsed from exhaustion long ago. But Han Jing is different. His goal is clear: to complete the system's Ghost-back task within 3 months. This is a matter of life and death, and the outside world's evaluation is insignificant to him. However, on the other side, Li Wei from Shanghai couldn't help himself. Yesterday, he left a message under Han Jing's post, intending to give this seemingly novice fitness fanatic, some kind reminder. But today, when Li Wei saw Han Zheng's updated training content, his patience completely collapsed. Li Wei crushed the cigarette but on the ground, a sarcastic smile on his face. Outrageous. This is simply outrageous. He decided to let more people see what this self-righteous guy was doing. So he quickly forwarded Han Zheng's post to a weight loss group of 500 people. This is a large group of like-minded people. The fat people in the group usually talk about how to fight their weight. Li Wei is usually very active in the group and often mobilizes the atmosphere. This time he was no exception. Come and take a look at this post. I guarantee you will laugh so hard after reading it. As he expected, the reaction in the group was an instant uproar. Everyone flocked to the FT forum, joking and watching this brave man who challenged the hell fitness. In just a few hours, Han Zheng's check-in post went from being ignored to the top 5 on the FT forum's hot list. More and more passers-by were attracted to watch this epic challenge. Even those who usually don't pay much attention to fitness couldn't help but click in to see what was going on. However, Han Zheng was unaware of all this. After the afternoon training, he opened the FT software as usual to record today's training data. At this time, he noticed that there were many more comments under the post, but most of them were mocking him. Han Zheng flipped through a few messages, smiled, and didn't read any more. In his eyes, these messages were just insignificant noise. He turned off the FT and prepared to go downstairs to eat something and continue his training plan. In the Manhattan gym, the heat was rolling. Sun Xian had just finished a VIP private training class and was soaked in sweat, but he was in a particularly excited mood. As a fitness coach with some fame on the internet, Sun Xian has come into contact with all kinds of clients, but this is the first time he has met a big money sponsor like Han Zheng who requires round-the-clock personalized services. Sun Xian knew that this was not only a considerable income, but also a rare opportunity. Being able to contact this level of customers meant that his influence in the fitness circle would be further enhanced. Today is the 4th day. Sun Xian has successfully completed the course for a VIP customer, and the remaining customers will also be finished in 2 days. All preparations are proceeding in an orderly manner, and he will soon be able to devote himself to the task of serving Han Zheng. However, there was one thing that puzzled Sun Xian. Han Zheng specifically asked him to bring along his female coach, Liang Yuan. At first, Sun Xian didn't think much about it, but the more he thought about it, the more he felt that it was not a simple matter. Sun Xian stood in the middle of the gym, looking through the gaps between the exercise equipment at Liang Yuan, who was not far away. She still had a neat ponytail and was wearing a close-fitting sportswear. Her muscles were smooth and full of youthful vitality. Her skin was a healthy wheat color, and she looked like a beautiful landscape. Sun Xian sighed in his heart. Such a girl is indeed extraordinary. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that Han Zheng's request to bring Liang Yuan with him was probably not just for fitness. Could it be that this big client had already set his sights on Liang Yuan? Thinking of this, Sun Xian couldn't help but reveal a playful smile. Soon after, Liang Yuan came over. She looked normal, as if she was not surprised by Sun Xian's call. Sun Xian smiled and said to her, "Coach Liang, I have finished a VIP client's course, and will finish another one the day after tomorrow. Have you arranged your schedule? We will go to Han Zheng's place next Monday." Liang Yuan nodded and replied with a smile, "Don't worry, Coach Sun. I'm ready." Sun Xian was still smiling, but his eyes were more searching. "Have you been in touch with Han Zheng recently?" Liang Yuan was stunned, then shook her head and sighed softly. In fact, she wanted to send a message to Han Zheng several times in the past few days, but she hesitated every time and finally deleted all the words she had typed. She was not sure what attitude she should use to face this person. Since she knew that it was Han Zheng's request that she and Sun Xian provide door-to-door service, Liang Yuan's heart became complicated. She couldn't help but wonder if Han Zheng was interested in her. Was this the so-called love at first sight? Although this idea sounded a bit absurd, she couldn't find a more reasonable explanation. Why did Han Zheng help her again and again? What was he after? Countless questions flashed through Liang Yuan's mind, but he couldn't answer them for the time being. Looking at Sun Xian's curious expression, Liang Yuan tried to explain, but he didn't know how to express himself. Seeing this, Sun Xian nodded slightly and said thoughtfully, "Sometimes, the pursuit of the pursuer is too fierce, which does make people feel embarrassed." Liang Yuan was speechless for a moment. She wanted to explain, but she didn't know how to start. She was not sure whether she had misunderstood Han Zheng's meaning. If he didn't mean that at all and she misunderstood, wouldn't it be too embarrassing? Meanwhile, on the 3rd floor of Citron Villa, Han Zheng is carrying out his hellish training day after day. Today is the 5th day of his fitness plan, and the training intensity is as high as ever. Every drop of sweat is paving the way for his goal, and every set of movements is tempering his will. After the training, Han Zheng posted a post on Tieba about the hellish training on the morning of the 5th day. Pull-ups, 4 sets to exhaustion, 90 seconds between sets. Barbell rowing, 12 RM, 8 sets. Deadlift, 12 RM, 8 sets. Dumbbell bent over row, 12 RM, 8 sets. Treadmill, 30 minutes. Afterwards, Han Zheng walked into the bathroom dripping with sweat and took a cold shower. Han Zheng stood in front of the mirror and looked at himself carefully. Several days of high-intensity training have already caused significant changes in his body. His shoulders are broader, his chest muscles are slightly bulging, his original fat has also faded a lot, and his waist and abdomen have become firmer and stronger. Han Zheng's facial features appeared more three-dimensional, and his eyes showed determination and confidence, as if there was an unyielding force surging in his body. Han Zheng picked up the electric clipper, looked in the mirror, and shaved his hair off again and again, finally shaving it into a neat round inch. This is a hairstyle that tests one's appearance, and Han Zheng's facial features and face shape perfectly match this hairstyle. His eyes become sharper, and he looks more capable and energetic. At this moment, the system interface suddenly appeared in Han Zheng's mind. After checking, Han Zheng found that his physical fitness had reached 70, which was much higher than the average value of 60 for ordinary adult men, but still far from his goal of 300. The talent given to him by the system, 100% of Hama Yujiro's talent, gave him strength and potential, and now he must improve his physical fitness to 80% of the template character within 100 days, which means he must reach a physical fitness of 300 and develop the legendary Devil's Back muscles. Only in this way can Han Zheng complete this rigorous task, open the treasure chest of system rewards, and obtain unknown and precious rewards. Seeing his progress, Han Zheng was filled with fighting spirit. He was confident that he could complete this seemingly impossible task within 100 days. He opened the bathroom door and walked out, ready to meet new challenges. However, the moment Han Zheng walked out of the bathroom, a scream mixed with fright broke the silence. Han Zheng subconsciously raised his head, and his eyes instantly locked onto the girl standing opposite him. She blushed, covered her eyes with her hands, and shouted in panic, "Who are you? Put on your clothes." Han Zheng was stunned for a moment, then he understood the situation. He couldn't help but smile. Although the scene was a bit awkward, he quickly regained his composure, with a hint of helplessness and amusement in his eyes. Han Zheng looked towards the staircase on the 3rd floor, and something moved in his heart. A girl in a beige tight skirt was standing there, her black hair was simply tied into a bun, and her delicate face was full of embarrassment at the moment. She was facing the direction of the bathroom, looking embarrassed and uneasy. "Sister," Han Zheng recognized her at a glance. This was his half-sister, Zhou Qiao. Shouldn't she be on a business trip in the capital? Why did she come back early? You are Han Zheng?" Zhou Qiao heard the familiar voice and blinked in disbelief through the gaps between her fingers. She was usually cold as ice, but at this moment, she was unusually panicked. "Go and put on your clothes first. I'll wait for you downstairs." Zhou Qiao turned around quickly and walked downstairs with her long legs. Han Zheng watched her disappear, then looked down and realized that he had forgotten to tie the straps of his bathrobe, revealing the shorts he was wearing underneath. He smiled helplessly and quickly got dressed. A few minutes later, the brother and sister sat on the sofa in the living room on the 1st floor. Zhou Qiao looked back and forth at Han Zheng, her heart full of doubts and surprise. The man in front of her was familiar yet strange, as if he had completely changed. In just a few days, he had undergone such a huge change. Could fitness really have such a magical effect? Han Zheng's voice interrupted her thoughts. "When did you come back?" "I just got off the plane and came to see you when I passed by." Zhou Qiao continued to look at him and couldn't help asking, "How much weight have you lost?" "I haven't weighed it, probably about 5 or 6 kilograms." Han Zheng shrugged. Zhou Qiao frowned slightly. How could there be such a big change in just 5 or 6 pounds? She complained in her heart, but didn't say it out loud. The two chatted casually for a while, and Zhou Qiao suggested not to go to the gym in the afternoon, but Han Zheng insisted on completing the daily clocking task. In the end, Zhou Qiao reluctantly agreed to stay here to rest and go home together in the evening. Meanwhile, at a real estate company in Pudong District, Li Wei sat at his desk, absent-mindedly scrolling through his phone. His attention was constantly drawn back to a man named Han Zheng. He was filled with uneasiness and doubt, eager to know whether this object of ridicule would react. Seeing this, a female colleague at the side couldn't help but tease, "Brother Wei, your blind date failed again?" Li Wei blushed and immediately retorted, But the irritation in his heart still did not dissipate. He stood up, pushed the chair away and walked out, muttering, "Why haven't you replied to my message yet?" When the female colleague saw him like this, she couldn't help but laugh. She turned around and whispered with other colleagues. The store was suddenly filled with a happy atmosphere. At lunchtime, Zhou Qiao sat at the dining table, looking at the sumptuous meal in front of her, frowning slightly. She thought Han Zheng should eat light fat-reducing meals during his fitness period, but the dishes in front of her were high-calorie foods such as braised pork and big plate chicken. She couldn't help but wonder, is this diet really suitable for fitness and weight loss? Han Zheng seemed to see her confusion and explained with a smile. Fat-reducing meals will not make you full at all. Only when you are full will you have the energy to exercise, right? As he said that, he opened the rice cooker. The rice in it was enough for 7 or 8 people. Zhou Qiao's eyes flashed with surprise. She really didn't understand why Han Zheng was eating and drinking while exercising. However, the facts were in front of her, and Han Zheng's changes were obvious. When Han Zheng picked up a bowl bigger than his face and buried his head in his meal, Zhou Qiao's worldview seemed to have encountered a doomsday-like impact. She realized that perhaps her long-standing understanding of fitness and weight loss might really have been overturned. After lunch, Zhou Qiao returned to her bedroom on the second floor. Although she was exhausted physically and mentally, she still couldn't fall asleep. She lay on the bed, and it seemed as if a kitten was gently scratching her mind, and she couldn't calm down for a long time. Half an hour later, she suddenly opened her eyes and sat up from the bed. Her curiosity drove her out of the room and walked to the third floor. Just take a look. Just take a look. She made up her mind secretly. She really didn't believe that just running and rowing could have such a huge effect. The door of the gym was slightly open, and before Zhou Qiao even approached, she heard heavy breathing coming from inside. She couldn't help but lighten her footsteps and quietly push the door open. The scene in front of her shocked her. In the spacious gym, a muscular figure was hanging on a thick, horizontal bar with both hands, rising and falling with the splash of sweat. Han Zheng's back and shoulder muscles were tense and glowing red. Sweat slid down his forehead and dripped onto the floor, making a crisp ticking sound. Is this Han Zheng? Is he really my brother who used to get exhausted after climbing stairs and avoided him whenever he heard about exercise? Zhou Qiao pinched her thigh in astonishment and felt a sharp pain before she confirmed that it was not an illusion. For some reason, she took out her cell phone and secretly took a photo of Han Zheng. At that moment, the sound of the camera suddenly rang out, breaking the original silence. Zhou Qiao was startled and hurriedly put away her phone. Han Zheng's eyes then moved to the door and saw Zhou Qiao standing there, but he did not stop, but continued to complete this set of pull-ups until he was exhausted. A few minutes later, Han Zheng let go of the horizontal bar, wiped his sweat with a towel, and when he looked up, he found that the figure at the door had disappeared. He was stunned for a moment, then shook his head, drank a sip of water, took a short rest, and then devoted himself to the next set of training. A few days ago, Han Zheng might have been a little distracted when facing his charming sister, but now, as he put all his energy into fitness, distracting thoughts seemed to have disappeared. When he saw Zhou Qiao again, he could treat her with a normal heart. This change in mentality seemed to have made him achieve the legendary Tao Heart as One. At dusk, the twilight deepened, and the afterglow of the setting sun shone on a Porsche 911 speeding past. Zhou Qiao's Bentley was parked in the garage of her villa in Jing'an district. She was driving a sports car she had chosen from Citron Villa. Han Zheng had originally suggested that she drive his Mercedes-Benz G-Class, but Zhou Qiao thought that car was too heavy and not as easy to drive as a sports car, so Han Zheng had no choice but to compromise. Along the way, the brother and sister didn't talk much. Han Zheng quietly looked at this bustling city through the car window. As night falls, the city appears quiet and peaceful in the darkness. But Han Zheng knows in his heart that this calm is just an illusion before the storm, and all the beauty is as fragile as bubbles. At the traffic light intersection, Zhou Qiao interrupted Han Zheng's contemplation and asked, "What are you thinking about?" Han Zheng smiled slightly. "Nothing. I was just wondering, what would it be like if the world suddenly destroyed one day?" Zhou Qiao chuckled. "The destruction of the world? The end of the world? Do you still believe this?" she teased. Han Zheng didn't say much, but just sighed silently in his heart. "I don't want to believe it either." Half an hour later, the Porsche parked steadily in the parking space in Jing'an district. Han Zheng and Zhou Qiao got out of the car and walked side by side along the artificial lake in the community. Not far ahead, a middle-aged lady walking her dog walked towards them. "Hello, Aunt Wang." Zhou Qiao greeted with a smile. "Qiao, I haven't seen you for a while." You look more beautiful now. The lady smiled. By the way, I asked Xiaoyuan to treat you to a meal last time. How was your conversation? He just returned to China and is not familiar with the local environment. You are close in age, so you can spend more time with each other. Halfway through her conversation, the lady's eyes fell on Han Jing, who was standing beside Zhou Qiao. Her expression suddenly changed, and her voice became louder. You have a boyfriend? Zhou Qiao quickly waved her hands to explain. Annie Wong, this is my brother Han Jing. Don't you recognize him? Han Jing? The lady widened her eyes, took small steps forward, looked at Han Jing carefully, and tried hard to match the person in front of her with the Han Jing in her memory. Soon, the lady's expression became incredible. It's really you. Have you lost weight? You look so stylish now, I can hardly recognize you. Han Jing greeted him with a smile, but in his heart he had no good feelings towards this neighbor and her son who had returned from overseas. Qiao, come to my house for dinner when you have time. I'll make you something delicious. Realizing that Zhou Qiao was still single, the lady's smile reappeared and she shook her hand warmly. Zhou Qiao responded politely and pulled her hand back skillfully. After saying goodbye to the lady, the brother and sister quickened their pace and tacitly stopped talking. The middle-aged lady stood there, staring at their backs for a long time, with an incredible expression on her face, and whispered to herself, "This boy, after losing weight, he is like a different person. If only I had a daughter." A moment later, Han Jing and Zhou Qiao walked into the house. However, Han Jing soon discovered that there were more than one wave of uninvited guests today. He suddenly felt a little regretful for coming back. Han Jing's father, Han Hongtu, is an only child with simple family relationships. He only has distant relatives beyond 3 generations, most of whom live in other places. Except during festivals, they hardly have any contact on weekdays. Han Jing's mother Lin Jingxian's family is different. She has 2 brothers and 1 sister. Lin Jingxian is the youngest sister in the family. The eldest sister married in another province. The second brother stayed in the north after demobilization, and only the eldest brother Lin Huaqiang and his family lived in Shanghai. Although the Lin family is not wealthy, they have accumulated some property due to rising housing prices and land acquisition policies. A few years ago, Lin Huaqiang sold 3 small-sized properties under his mother's name and bought a large flat with a mortgage, but his own name was written on the property certificate. However, for the already wealthy Lin Jingxian, this little fortune was nothing to worry about, so she didn't care. As Lin Huaqiang was promoted to deputy director this year, he and his family gradually became closer to Lin Jingxian's family and often visited them. Han Jing was very annoyed by this, which was one of the reasons why he insisted on moving out and living alone. At this time, Han Jing and Zhou Qiao had just entered Jing'an district, while Lin Huaqiang's family had already sat down on the sofa in the living room, chatting happily with Lin Jingxian. Han Hongtu had not yet returned home, so Lin Jingxian entertained her eldest brother and his family alone. The coffee table was filled with fresh fruits, and the few people ate and chatted, and before they knew it, the topic turned to Han Jing. Han Jing really lacks exercise. Some exercise is good for his health. Lin Huaqiang nodded with a smile. After hearing this, Lin Jingxian's face was filled with a mother's doting, yes, he suddenly decided to work out, and his father and I are very happy. We don't ask for anything from him in this life, we just hope that he will be healthy. My aunt spit out a piece of grape skin gracefully, then curled her lips and said, "Little sister, Han Jing is really heavy. I think he should go to a weight loss training camp, where there will be professional guidance." Lin Jingxian blinked. Weight loss training camp? Wouldn't that be too hard? To be honest, Hongtu and I never expected him to lose much weight. As long as he's willing to move, it's fine. So is he finding a gym outside to exercise in? My aunt continued to ask. Lin Jingxian smiled and waved her hand. No. Hongtu transferred 5 million to his card and let him build a private gym in the Citron Villa in the northern suburbs. Puff. Lin Huaqiang and his wife lost their composure in an instant. Lin Liangshan was also dumbfounded, with strong envy and jealousy in his eyes. 5 million. Han Jing could spend 5 million so easily? Lin Liangshan's heart was unsettled, but he tried his best to remain calm on his face. He shook his head and said calmly, "How can this be possible? Aunt, you will spoil your cousin like this. Since you want to lose weight, you have to do it seriously. It's best to set a goal, and don't give up until you reach it." I think my mom's suggestion is very good. The weight loss training camp has a professional team that can help with weight loss in a systematic and scientific way. If my cousin trains at home by himself, the effect will definitely not be good. Lin Liangshan continued, I have a few classmates who happen to be in the Department of Physical Education at Jiaotong University. I can help ask and recommend the best weight loss training camp in Shanghai to my cousin. Confused by her nephew's words. When she didn't know how to respond, she heard the door open. A tall girl with fair skin walked in. She was wearing a beige dress, and her beautiful face was eye-catching. Xiao Xiao is back. My uncle's signature hoarse voice rang out. Hello, uncle, aunt, and cousin. Zhou Xiao Xiao greeted them politely. Then Lin Jingxian's voice rang out. Xiao Xiao, where's Zheng'er? Didn't you say you came back with him? It's right behind me. Zhou Xiao Xiao replied with a smile, turned around and looked at Han Zheng, who was changing his shoes, and winked at him. Han Zheng had no choice but to speed up his movements, put on his slippers, and walked into the living room. At this moment, the eyes of several people on the sofa fell on Han Zheng, and the expressions on their faces instantly became wonderful. Uncle Lin Huaqiang spit out a mouthful of tea. Aunt Xia Rongjin widened her eyes, her face full of confusion, and cousin Lin Liangshan frowned, his face full of shock. As soon as Lin Jingxian saw her son, she exclaimed, ran forward, raised her hand and kept stroking his face, from eyebrows to lips, and then to hair. How did he suddenly become so handsome and good-looking? Is this still my baby son? Mom, I just lost a little weight and cut my hair. It's not as exaggerated as you say. Han Zheng responded with a smile. Turn around and let Mom take another look. Well, short hair really suits you. Stay like this from now on, and you are not allowed to have long hair. Lin Jingxian's eyes were full of her son's shadow, and she forgot for a moment that her eldest brother and his family were still sitting on the sofa. It wasn't until Lin Huaqiang coughed twice that she realized what was happening. She took Han Zheng's hand and returned to the sofa to sit down. It's really Han Zheng. I almost didn't recognize him, Lin Huaqiang said with a smile, with a hint of embarrassment on his face. Although Han Zheng didn't have a good impression of this uncle in his heart, in order to save his mother's face, he still behaved politely and greeted his uncle and aunt respectfully. I just heard from your mother that you have been working out to lose weight recently, but I didn't expect the effect to be so significant. Did you really not go to any weight loss camp? Aunt Xia looked at the new-looking Han Zheng in front of her, still with unconcealable shock in her eyes. No, I just practiced by myself. Han Zheng replied calmly. Xia choked for a moment. She recalled that she had enthusiastically promoted the weight loss camp just now. She suddenly felt embarrassed and had to force out a forced smile and said, Good practice, keep up the good work. At this time, Lin Liangshan was unwilling to be lonely and stood out again to show his presence. TSK, cousin. I thought you found a stylist to give you a comprehensive, wild boar transformation. He made a joke in a casual manner, but there was a hint of sarcasm in his tone. Wild Boar Makeover is a Japanese drama about a sloppy, unsociable girl who regains her confidence after a makeover. Lin Liangshan was obviously hinting at Han Zheng's previous image, which was unsightly. Zhou Qiao and Lin Jingxian's faces changed immediately, while Han Zheng just glanced at Lin Liangshan coldly and sighed helplessly in his heart. I really want to give you a mirror and let you see what you look like. Lin Liangshan inherited his mother's facial features, which were ordinary and featureless. In comparison, Han Zheng, even before losing weight, was still better than Lin Liangshan. Han Zheng really couldn't understand where Lin Liangshan got the courage to mock his own appearance. It would be great if there really was a stylist. I would like to introduce him to my cousin. Han Zheng replied indifferently. Lin Liangshan was choked and waved his hands awkwardly. Hey, I was just joking. Why are you taking it so seriously, cousin? Han Zheng looked at him speechlessly and secretly complained in his heart. What can I use to save you, my stupid cousin? Just then, a middle-aged male voice came from the door. What are you talking about? It's so lively. Brother-in-law is back. Lin Huaqiang finally stood up. As a department-level cadre, even if he was arrogant, he had to give face to Han Hongtu, who was worth tens of billions. Xia Rongjin also hurriedly tidied up her clothes and prepared to greet him. Lin Liangshan was the first to rush out, enthusiastically helping Han Hongtu get his slippers, and affectionately called out, Hello, uncle. Han Zheng looked at Lin Liangshan's enthusiastic performance and couldn't help thinking, Good fellow. If someone didn't know you, they would think you were Han Hongtu's biological son. Liangshan, you've become stronger and more handsome. Not bad, not bad. Han Hongtu patted Lin Liangshan on the shoulder as he walked into the room. Lin Liangshan's flattered look almost made Han Zheng laugh out loud. Xiao Xiao, is Zheng'er back? Han Hongtu nodded to Lin Huaqiang and his wife, then looked at Zhou Qiao. However, just as Han Hongtu finished speaking, he caught a glimpse of the young man sitting next to Lin Jingxian out of the corner of his eye. The man had a buzz cut and a handsome face, and looked vaguely like Lin Jingxian. Han Hongtu's heart skipped a beat, and an ominous thought flashed through his mind. Could this be an illegitimate child? Was his wife having an affair behind his back? An unknown anger instantly rose from the bottom of his heart, and even though he had always been good at cultivating his chi, he couldn't help but feel a little bit overwhelmed at this moment. Han Hongtu suppressed his anger, looked at Lin Jingxian calmly, and asked with a smile, "Wife, why don't you introduce the guest to your home? Who is this?" Han Zheng was speechless for a moment. Zhou Qiao was also stunned, and Lin Jingxian couldn't help rolling her eyes and said unhappily, "You really are face blind. You can't even recognize your own son?" Han Hongtu was stunned for a moment. "My son?" Han Zheng stood up helplessly. "Dad, I just cut my hair. Is it that serious?" "It's really Zheng'er." When Han Hongtu heard the familiar voice, all his doubts disappeared instantly. He patted his chest in fear, thinking to himself that it was a good thing he didn't act impulsively just now, otherwise it would have become a misunderstanding. "Uncle, my cousin has indeed changed a lot. It's normal that you can't recognize him." Haha. Lin Liangchen tried to ease the atmosphere and wanted to talk to Han Hongtu more. Unexpectedly, Han Hongtu didn't listen to him at all. He only had his son in his eyes. Han Hongtu stepped forward quickly, grabbed Han Zheng's shoulders with both hands, and patted them excitedly. "Not bad. You've become much stronger. You're really handsome after losing weight, and you look exactly like your father when he was young. These 5 million were not wasted. Son, is the money enough? Forget it. I'll transfer a few million to you tomorrow, and you can spend it boldly." Hearing Han Hongtu's words, Lin Jingxian and Zhou Qiao just smiled slightly, while Lin Huaqiang and his wife tried to keep a polite smile and not lose their composure. However, Lin Liangchen's eyes turned red again, and the jealousy in his heart almost swallowed him up. "My uncle gave millions to my cousin, but I have to pay a mortgage to buy a BMW worth hundreds of thousands." Lin Liangchen roared in his heart, jealousy and anger intertwined. He stared at Han Zheng, endless resentment surged in his heart, and he wished he could immediately pass through this cousin's soul and enjoy the peak of life. Although today is the rare day for Han Zheng's family of 4 to have a reunion dinner. But Lin Huaqiang and his family left without any hesitation. Instead, he stayed and attended the dinner. At the dinner table, the dishes are rich and varied, ranging from traditional home-cooked meals to exquisite banquet dishes. Each dish is delicious and tasty. Han Zheng's appetite has increased significantly recently. I added rice 4 times in a row. Lin Jingxian, Han Hongtu, and even Zhou Qiao would take the initiative to pick up food for Han Zheng from time to time. Lin Liangchen, who was sitting opposite him, felt a toothache again when he saw this. It is understandable that Lin Jingxian and Han Hongtu, as parents, love their son. But what does Zhou Qiao mean? After all, I am her cousin. How much meat has been put into Han Zheng's dish? But he didn't even get to enjoy a single leaf of vegetable. Is it so obvious to favor one over the other? Lin Liangchen turned his grief and anger into appetite. He lowered his head and started eating hard. Although he looked similar to Han Zheng, but handsome people do this without being fussy. Lin Liangchen can only be regarded as a wild boar digging for food. Lin Huaqiang and Xie Rongzhen glanced at their son's indecent eating habits and cursed in their hearts. "It's so embarrassing. It's like I haven't eaten in 8 lifetimes." To cover up the unnaturalness on the face, Lin Huaqiang took the initiative to pick up the wine glass and drank a glass of wine to thank his sister and brother-in-law for their hospitality. While drinking and exchanging cups, he also took the initiative to talk about something. Han Zheng, who was concentrating on eating, pricked up his ears instantly. "Brother-in-law, Hongyu's port trade business may have to stop for a while. You want to talk about the nuclear wastewater?" "Huh? You already know?" Lin Huaqiang showed a hint of surprise on his face. "I heard from Lao Chan." Han Hongtu nodded and sighed. Although the international community has been putting pressure on the Sakura government, the situation is not optimistic. They are almost out of control, and it is estimated that they may discharge into the sea next month. Lin Huaqiang nodded and stopped talking. He knew that the Lao Chen Han Hongtu mentioned was his boss's immediate boss. He is also one of the most powerful people in the entire Demon City. Since Han Hongtu has already communicated with the other party, maybe he knows more inside information than I do. Among the people at the dinner table, except for Han Zheng, no one else cared much about the term nuclear wastewater. Han Hongtu and Lin Huaqiang were only slightly worried. Perhaps in their view, this was just a serious but controllable accident. At most it will pollute the marine environment and have a relatively severe impact on seafood and marine trade. It would be fine if we completely closed import trade with neighboring countries in the future. However, only Han Zheng knew How big of a crisis will this accident cause to the world? Take the previous life, for example. After nuclear wastewater is discharged into the sea. At first, everyone strongly condemned and protested seriously. The seafood market plummeted and hit rock bottom. Although many people followed the trend and stockpiled a lot of salt, they still didn't take it seriously. Until a month later, someone accidentally discovered that the color of the water in the neighboring country's waters slowly changed from blue-black to dark red. Many dead bodies of marine creatures float on the sea surface every day. Countries gradually realized that something was wrong. Send out an expedition to investigate. As a result, the ship was destroyed and people died. Several expedition teams were almost wiped out. The area of the dark Red Sea began to spread rapidly. 2 months later, mutated marine life began to appear in human vision. Just 10 days, countless mutated marine creatures began to evolve, increasing in size by hundreds or even thousands of times. And they landed on land one after another at a terrifying speed. Coastal cities around the world suffered devastating attacks. The world has officially reached its end. The Magic City was one of the first cities to be attacked. Han Zheng's fate also began to change from then on. Order has collapsed and human life is worthless. Everyone is equal before life and death. In the eyes of mutant sea beasts, those billionaires are no different from beggars on the street. Overnight, Han Zheng's family was destroyed. His parents died tragically, his sister Zhou Qiaoqiao went missing, and he was left alone hiding in the air raid shelter. Together with other survivors, we lingered on, running for our lives all day, and survived for more than half a year. The thought of that huge, ferocious-looking mutant lobster monster with 4 legs, dark green color and shiny scales, an open mouth with sharp teeth visible, more than 3 meters tall, and weighing at least 500 or 600 kilograms. He still has lingering fears. There is also a greater desire for power. Live a new life. There is also a system on the body. He doesn't ask to be a savior, but at least he wants to protect the people around him. In addition, when the sea area enters the first stage of mutation, he would find an excuse to send his parents to Chengdu inland. Although Han Zheng never escaped to the gathering place in Rongqing until his death in his previous life, he did not know the specific situation there. But no matter what, I think Chengdu is at least much safer than Shanghai. After all, even the Demon City fell at the last moment. The surviving team members of those armed organizations also rushed to Chengdu together. By the time Han Zheng came back to his senses from the memory of the mountains of corpses and seas of blood, the dinner was already coming to an end. In my ears, I could hear my cousin Lin Liangchen's boastful voice again. "Uncle, my mother wants me to take the civil service exam right after I graduate from college, but I want to continue my doctoral studies and become a university professor at my alma mater after returning to China. In my opinion, teachers are engineers of the human soul. Contributing to the development of education and devoting their own light and heat is a more meaningful life." Quack, quack. Han Hongtu was the first to applaud. "It's not easy for you to have such awareness. I think your parents will be proud of you too. How about this? When you graduate with your PhD and return to your alma mater to teach, your uncle will give you a house near Jiaodong University. Donate 20 million yuan to Jiaodong University as an education fund at one time." Lin Liangchen was a little overwhelmed by the wave after wave of surprises. He stood up flattered and bowed 90 degrees on the spot. "Uncle, don't worry. I will study hard. I promise I will learn a lot and come back after I finish my studies." I heard my son's lofty ideals and his solemn statement. Xia Rongzhen was relieved and moved. With tears in her eyes, she gently patted her son on the back. "Xiao Xiao, you have experience studying abroad. You can talk more with your cousin and recommend him some better foreign colleges. You have been childhood sweethearts, so you should have a lot in common. You should spend more time together. I have watched you grow up. To be honest, I have often thought over the years how nice it would be if I had such a caring daughter. You don't know how much I envy your mother."